With former Nigerian presidential aspirant Adamu Garba II. Many thanks for joining us on the programme this evening. So Kamala Harris is the third top US official to visit the African continent since the beginning of this year. What, in your opinion, accounts for Washington's increasing interest in the region?
Yes, it is actually quite surprising that United States is trying to make a rapprochement in Africa, because it is clear that the influence of United States has waned extensively in Africa. Everybody sees U.S. as policies towards Africa as basically driven by scavenging and taking our resources. So I believe she's here to do main fencing, kind of, which I think most of Africans are aware of what is happening, what U.S. is about coming to Africa to do. It's all about extracting our resources. And if you look at even the countries they choose in East, South, and Western Africa, most of these countries are the countries where the anti-West sentiment is very, very high. Tanzania will not be where it is today without Chinese debt. And if you come back to Ghana, most of their sufferings, all the challenges they are facing regarding inflation, regarding food crisis, regarding fuel crisis, and rising cost of living is squarely blamed on the IMF debt, which is also, of course, fronted by the US. If you go back to Tanzania, the same problem. So I don't know what she's coming to get, because to the best of my knowledge, Africa has moved forward far beyond what the US is thinking Africa used to be. And Africa knew who are their friends. China has been very supportive in terms of building infrastructure and giving the necessary win-win diplomatic approach that benefit both Africa and China. And if you look at what happened from Russia recently, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, clearly stated about $20 billion of debt relief to African countries. This is something that Africans are celebrating. So I don't know what US is trying to come and do, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they should expect any very strong positive outcome from that meeting. It is still going to go down the same way that Anthony Blinken was here, the same way that United States Secretary for Africa was here. Nothing, was achieved significantly that seems to turn the tide. I don't see any positive outcome from the coming of Kamala Harris. I don't see her bringing any new thing, compared to what Blinken and also the Secretary of State for Africa were able to achieve.
And what has the response from the African public been like to these US diplomatic trips? And what has been the response been like in the local media?
Yeah, it is very clear. Like, you see, I can give you a clear example. Like, most of the policies of the United States here in Africa, from inception, after extensive review, after the wars, the famine, the IMF debt, and so many other issues that have indebted and impoverished Africa, most of these things are squarely blamed of Western imperialism. And even on the news of the debt relief that is granted, by Russia, by Russian Federation to Africa, I got it from Voice of Nigeria. I got the news from Voice of Nigeria here. So you can see the clear differences between what is happening in the East and what is happening in the West. To the best of my knowledge, what we are hearing here is that the Africans are seeing a new imperialist approach into Africa by the West. And I don't think in this century, where multipolarity is taking the center stage in the diplomatic and approach to rising African policies, I don't think Africa is ready to move with the way it used to be with the United States any longer. I don't think so.
Of course, there's so many challenges the continent is facing right now, including food shortages and the aftermath of the pandemic as well. But the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has said she couldn't give Africa any assurances at this point. So what does that say about the US dedication to the region amid all of these diplomatic visits?
It is purely one-sided and driven by their own self-interest, even against that of Africa. So that is not partnership, that is a one-sided relationship. A relationship that only when it benefits them is when they work with. When it doesn't benefit them, they don't go with it. And that is the case where you see there is no guarantee of any support coming to Africa should there be any issue at all that have to do with even the survival of Africa. Meanwhile, almost all the resources that is driving today's global industries is coming from Africa. So when you look at this, you see that this is only a one-way relationship. We are just giving dollars entrapped in a debt when it is required, and at the end of the day, when we fell into trouble, we are neglected. It's always a one-sided relationship, and I think African population and African people and African policymakers have grown far beyond this and are looking towards a future where there is multipolarity and there's also different approach to building a new world that will benefit everyone, not just one side.
Thank you so much for joining us on the programme. It's great to get your thoughts on this. Former Nigerian presidential aspirant Adamu Garba II. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.